A slave is someone who is under the authoritative control of a master. A slave is someone who seeks permission from someone else. A slave is someone who cannot express absolute freedoms and rights. A slave is someone who is punished for not following the rules. And you are unknowingly and willingly a slave to a nation state, where the country you live in is ruled over by authorities who have captured your life into a system of bondage and debt, a system of modern day slavery. Greetings and welcome. My name is Russell Paul Arthur from Grace Sovereignty Academy, and I'm here to awaken you to an uncomfortable truth. The uncomfortable truth of your enslavement to a system of bondage and debt, where you unknowingly and willingly abandon and sacrifice your sovereign authority and powers. You live in bondage servitude to a modern day system of slavery. And I'm here to guide you towards the possibility, the real and practical possibility of reclaiming and reasserting your sovereign authority and powers, so that you can break free from the chains of bondage and debt, so you can unleash your life from a system that was designed to use and abuse your life, from a system that is becoming more corrupt, harsh, and intolerable, so you can save yourself and save your loved ones, so that you are free to create and live the exact life that you were born to live, the exact life that you have a burning desire to live, a life that is free from modern day slavery. So what exactly do I mean when I say you are a slave to a system of bondage and debt? Well, sadly, we live within a world that was established with institutions of governance and banking that were designed to control and extort human life, where legislations and currency are designed to control life, and where those who control legislations and currency can extort value from your life. And this current system of governance and banking, of legislations and currency, is a system of modern day slavery, where those who create legislations and currency are the masters who control and extort from those who are the slaves to legislation and currency. You are a slave to this system of governance and banking, because those who own and control the governance and banking give you no other choice but to conform to their system. When you must conform to something where you have no other choice, where you are forced to conform, or you are persecuted and punished if you do not conform, then you are a slave. Right now, your entire life and livelihood is spent in bondage servitude to a system of legislations and currency, where you are a modern day slave to the dictates of governance and banking, where you are a slave to the authority of a state who is your master, who dictates the terms and conditions, that imposes the rules and regulations on how you can and cannot live your life. Your life and livelihood is bound to a financial system that operates on wage slavery and debt slavery, where you are a slave to the money and debt, where you must trade your time and energy in exchange for currency, where in order for you to acquire some of the most basic needs of life, a home, a vehicle, and a business, you must borrow money and become indebted to a bank. For 10, 20, 30 or more years of your life, the prime time years of your life, you must work a job, career or business in bondage servitude to earn money to repay debt. You must sacrifice other important aspects of your life whilst you are in bondage to money or debt. So whether you like it or not, whether you agree with me or not with my claims that you are a slave, the fact still remains that your life has been captured into a system of bondage and debt. Your life is being controlled and extorted by governance and banking, where they have a monopoly over the value of your life, where the energy, time and labour of your life is mostly spent with you earning a living, of having to work to live, of having to borrow to gain the funds to secure the basic needs of life, where you must work yourself to the bone just to get ahead. And the only way that you can truly get ahead in a system of masters and slaves, in a system of bondage and debt, is when you become a master yourself, is when you control and extort the lives of other people who slave away for your business. Where maybe one day you can retire in style, luxury, peace and comfort, where one day perhaps you will be free. But you can never be free, not when your life is a slave to bondage and debt, not while you are under the thumb of governance and banking that grows in wealth and power through using and abusing your life. Well, you must toe the line, stay out of trouble, never question the authorities, never deviate from the status quo. But instead you must show up each day just to plod along in the chains of bondage and debt, as an obedient, stressed out, paranoid, hypervigilant, used and abused slave to a system of modern day slavery, where you have no freedom to choose otherwise, where you have no choice but to conform to the system and comply with those who set up the rules and regulations, or you will be persecuted and punished. Or you will suffer an impoverished life of not being able to earn a living, of not being able to fund and support your life. And so this world has been established with a system of governance and banking that has institutionalized modern day slavery, where you must live in bondage and debt to legislations and currency in order to survive and hopefully thrive, where you must choose to become a master of slaves or a slave to masters. But whatever you choose to become, a master or a slave, your life is still in bondage servitude to legislations and currency, to the mechanisms of control and extortion that rule over and regulate your life and livelihood, where you have no other choice but to conform or else. And there isn't much else in terms of alternatives. When we take a look around at society, when we see that structures and systems of governance and banking permeate throughout every aspect of society. But surely there must be a better way. Surely we can think of something else to improve the structures and systems of society so they truly do liberate, honour and enhance life. Where we can have structures and systems that do not involve mastery or slavery, that do not require bondage or debt. Well, it is possible for us to imagine, visualise and create these new structures and systems, but only once we choose to unshackle from the chains of the current system of governance and banking that controls and extorts our lives. When we exercise our sovereign authority and powers, assert our natural and inherent freedoms and rights, express our free will choice to remove the bonds and debts that enslaves us to the rules and regulations of governance and banking. When we each refuse to participate in our own slavery, when we choose to walk away in the opposite direction. The opposite direction of slavery is to live a life of sovereignty. Sovereignty is to become free and independent from any bonds, debts, legislations or currency imposed by another authority. And this is a real and practical possibility. This is something we do within Grace Sovereignty Academy. We have formed a new society and academy of private and sovereign members who choose to cooperate in mutual benefit, support and respect. We have formed a new society and academy with the intention to create new structures and systems that honours, uplifts and facilitates all life, where everybody within our society and academy has access to the resources and means necessary to create an extraordinary life, where sovereign men and women can utilise structures and systems that are free from top-down control and extortion, that protects freedom of choice, that rewards people on the merits of contribution and results, that does not persecute or punish people, where each member of our society and academy is recognised, honoured and treated as a sovereign authority and power. A sovereign is not bound to the dictates of a collective majority. A sovereign is not bound to the dictates of governance and banking. A sovereign is not bound to anything he or she does not consent to or agree with. A sovereign has the absolute freedom to self-determine, self-direct and self-govern his or her own life and livelihood without any interference, impositions or enforcement from any other authorities. Because the very act of forcing someone to conform is an act of enslavement. Moving beyond modern day slavery to a future of sovereignty does require you to unwind from the bondage of slavery. You must acquire the knowledge and skills to operate with sovereign immunity. You must grow with intelligence and competence. It requires you to undergo a personal transformation and ascension so that you can elevate your mind, body and soul above the concepts, restrictions and limitations of a world that depends on you becoming a master of slaves or a slave to a master, of a world that is deeply asleep and inured to a life of bondage and debt. Your elevation can take place when you join our academy. Inside Grace Sovereignty Academy, we teach, guide and support our members on how to transition from modern day slavery into a future of personal sovereignty. If you are interested to learn more, if you are in a place where you are looking for change, real and practical change that upgrades your life with real tangible results that benefits you and your family, then I invite you to get in touch with us, to examine our academy for yourself with a free 60-day trial. And in the meantime, stay sane and stay sharp.